The Jules Verne Trophy Record, which has been held for just a day under 9 years by Francis Joyon and the team on IDEC Sport, has been smashed this Sunday morning by Sodebo Ultim 3 and the team led by Thomas Coville. They finished in 40 days, 10 hours, 45 minutes and 50 seconds. We take a look at the arrival with the French Navy up in the air on their aeroplane to take a look at as they came in, the theoretical route, the route they took and the ups and downs compared to the ghost boat on IDEC Sport, and then also from yesterday the final drone footage that their amazing pilot Lloyd took out in the Bay of Biscay.
Sodebo, du Falcon 50 de la Marine Nationale sur le Chanel 16, comment me recevez-vous?
Oui, je vous reçois fort et clair. C'est sympa de passer nous dire coucou.
Sodebo's crossing from Finisterre across the Bay of Biscay towards the Ushant finish line wasn't as bad as initially feared. The deepest parts of the depression split with a lighter wind patch in the middle. It was still 40 knots and the massive seas that they had to contend with, but overall they'll be very happy with how the weather picture opened up for them. The tension at mission control was palpable, with friends and relatives and well-wishers all wanting to see them cross the finish line in this record time. On board there was a sense of calm which has pervaded throughout their circumnavigation, and not much of a celebration on board. I think that you'll find that the entire team, especially after those last 24-48 hours, will be exhausted, and so they're wanting to make sure they don't make any mistakes in those closing stages and bringing the boat back safely ashore.
Tu peux avoir toutes les informations.
The Jules Verne Trophy start line is an imaginary line between the Cleach Lighthouse on Wisson Island, France, and Lizard Point in Cornwall, UK, then heading down the Atlantic to the east of the Azores High and the west of the St Helena High. After that it's time for a circuit of Antarctica, passing the Great Capes. The Cape of Good Hope at the southern tip of Africa, onto the Indian Ocean and Cape Lewin at the southwestern tip of Australia, and then past New Zealand and into the Pacific towards Cape Horn. It's then a sprint up the South Atlantic, across the equator and into the North Atlantic back to the finish line. The course here shows a passage to the west of the Azores High, but this route can often be more direct depending on the weather systems in the Atlantic at that time. Looking at the full circumnavigation, we can see how Sodebo Ultim 3 had a really fast start down the North Atlantic, going past the Canary Islands, then Cape Verde Islands, continuing to open up a lead over IDEC Sport, getting up to 500 nautical miles as they crossed the equator, a very quick crossing of the doldrums and into the South Atlantic, where they then had to hug the South American coastline. And you can see their IDEC Sport, that's the red boat in this picture, the ghost boat that they're always taking a look as to how much their advantage is, had quite a slow entry to the South Atlantic, but then managed to cut the corner of the St Helena High. You can see how the yellow boat, and that's Sodebo Ultim 3, had to take a far more rounded route, far further down that South American coast, which allowed IDEC to come back a little bit. At the time, the lead was 1,300 nautical miles. They then rounded the Cape of Good Hope and went into the Indian Ocean. This was the time where IDEC Sport had a quite incredible run. A single jibe through the entire Indian Ocean meant they could see on Sodebo Ultim 3 their lead just continually being eroded as they had to jibe past the Kerguelens onto Cape Lewin. And you can see that 1,300, 1,400 nautical mile lead got eroded to nothing as they went down the south side of Australia, past Tasmania, and at that point they actually lost the lead briefly as they went past between Tasmania and New Zealand. And you can see there that little bit of a northern route that IDEC Sport had to take, which meant that they took a longer route, what with the closer you are to the Antarctic, the faster you go, past Point Nemo, and you can see there Sodebo beginning to rebuild their lead, 300 nautical miles as they approach Cape Horn. But then they hit the light winds, really light winds on the rounding up to Cape Horn. And once again, you can see IDEC Sport just closing that gap. And so they went round Cape Horn, pretty slow, but just a 100 nautical mile lead at that point. Past the Falkland Islands, a really complex picture in the South Atlantic. And they had to take, again, quite a circuitous route to try and stay in the breeze and navigate these complex weather pictures. To be fair, it was just the same for IDEC Sport back in 2016-17, and it's always a bit torturous in this area to get the weather systems correct. Very difficult indeed, and it really is a case of just weaving between the winds. Then they caught into more pressure as the last parts of the South Atlantic towards the equator, and at this point the lead is about 200 nautical miles. A quick crossing of the equator, stuck for a little bit, where the lead again goes down to about 200 miles, and then into the North Atlantic, starting to use the trade winds. And then the next big barrier, the Azores High, relatively far south because of the storms coming through. They got across this, and you can see again the lead went up to 700 nautical miles, and once again just reduced. They just couldn't get rid of that ghost boat until they came to Storm Ingrid, and this was by far the strongest winds they were going to face. A small gap opened up between the two different sets of pressure, which they managed to navigate their way through. We conclude today's video with Leo's final drone flight as they approach the Bay of Biscay. We'll be bringing you more of their arrival as soon as it's available. If you did enjoy this video, please do give it a like and subscribe using the button down here. And we'll be bringing you far more from the world of sailing on sailworld.com and yachtsandyachting.com.